Right, back on with the action. Before we launch into Fans Pulse Lap 2 discussion topic, once again, a big thank you to everyone who takes the trouble to simply hit a thumbs up, a comment, a love heart, a comment on our YouTube channel below any of our output is hugely appreciated, and it helps all those social media and YouTube channel algorithms, helps to push 360 Speedway into notoriety for all the right reasons. So please keep liking, keep commenting, keep sharing, and it would be super useful if you help to encourage more people to pick up 360 Speedway output by tagging them in, particularly on Facebook. Tag some Speedway going friends and family into our 360 Speedway output. That would be much appreciated. We now have 14 plus hours of 360 Speedway discussion within our YouTube channel, and so there's a whole winter's worth almost of Speedway discussion to watch for the first time if you've missed out on some of those episodes. But go back and pick up some of that chat. 14 hours. How else, lads, would someone spend 14 hours but listen to us talking about Speedway? Right, okay, on with the chat then. So Fans Pulse Lap 2. You have voted, we have listened. We're going to talk about probably something that a lot of current day supporters will not have too much knowledge of or awareness of, and they might not ever have seen this. So we're going to go back a little bit in time to some of my younger days, to a former era where, in some people's views, this might have been a bit of a gimmick. Speedway sometimes, deploys various gimmicks, and maybe this was a bit of a gimmick, but nonetheless, it was a terrific gimmick because to this day, many supporters, myself included, really remember lots of gold helmet in the British League, the top flight, or else silver helmet in the so-called second tier match races. So there would be a gold or a silver helmet holder, and that rider would defend that gold or silver helmet, typically by the top scoring rider of the visitors, or else through a nominated challenger, as used to be the case. So gents, my first question to you, do you agree or disagree with me? Stuart, I'll let you come in first. Was it a bit of a gimmick? And if it was it one well worth having?
Do you know what? When I started going to Speedway from a young age, Derek, and standing the terraces, we used to love the silver helmet match race. It was a big thing at the end of the match, I think that the fans looked forward to it. It was obviously whoever was in possession of it, and then you had the challenger, who was generally the top rider. And I think a lot of riders nowadays will maybe get into the last race of a match thinking there's not a lot in the table here, with 20 points down. But with the silver helmet, the gold helmet, a lot of riders were out there to win the race, or try and get what they could to challenge for that silver helmet. Obviously it was something that was more back in the day when I rode, Nigel as well, and Cal, you'll remember it. But I loved the silver helmet. I really did. The gold helmet as well. I thought it was good for the fans, and it was the two best riders generally at the end of the night, and it was a good climax to the night. And quite a funny story that I've got a memory of was when we were at Glasgow and Robbie Kessler held the silver helmet and he came to Glasgow, and at that point I was 13s, 14s at home, and Neil Collins was my teammate, and Neil Collins was quite typically the selfish rider that most of them were back in the day, where they wouldn't say team ride, but we were both in the same points. We were going into the final race. I wanted to win it. I wanted to challenge for the silver helmet, never challenged for it, and I was actually winning the race, and Neil came up the inside of me and nearly wiped me out. So at the end of the race, as you can imagine, I'm raging. I'm racing down the straight at Sheffield. He won the race. I was second. He got the win, so he challenged for the silver helmet. And Derek, honestly, if you could watch it back, it was hilarious. Chased him all the way. Anyway, he got the chance to win it, and he did win it. He got that win, and he got the silver helmet. Needless to say, the next night we went to Exeter, who nobody liked, and you can imagine that he never kept hold of it that night. But I think as for the fans, for the viewing, I think it's I would like to see it brought back. I really would. Who'd fund it though? Cal, I don't know, the silver helmet. It wouldn't be the Speedway Control Board. But I think it was great for the fans, and it was the two best riders generally at the end of the night, which was a great climax.
Great memory, Stuart. I love that story. Stuart McDonald in 13-point Hull Shock. I can't remember you scoring as many points as that, Stuart. It must have happened. I don't doubt it for a second. Nigel, did you ever get your head inside the silver helmet?
Yeah, I held it a few times, lost it, maybe held it for 2 or 3 races and that. And I'd go along with everything what Stuart says. I don't know why they stopped running it. I can only imagine it would have come down to cost another race. But like Stuart says, it's the end to the night. Like, you had your 2 top riders. And I enjoyed it. It was another few quid in the bank, wasn't it? Another race, another few quid in the bank.
Yeah.
I can only imagine it would be stopped for financial reasons. I would imagine so, but no, it was really good. I think I held it when I came to Glasgow once, and Steve Lawson beat me in for it. I can't remember 100%. But yeah, I had it a few times, and it was always good to hold it. A bit of, I don't know, glory and a bit of prestige, having the silver helmet. Like, you never wore it, though. No, you didn't put it on. You looked a right pillock if you put it on.
That's not what Janet told me, Nigel. That's not what Janet told me.
You're sleeping it, Stuart. No, but it wasn't a bonny-looking thing. It looked nice from the distance, mine. But it was just another bit more entertainment for the night, wasn't it? And that's what we're short of now, isn't it? Entertainment. Bring it back. I'm all for bring the silver helmet, bring the gold helmet, bring them back. And try and fund it somehow.
Yeah, maybe it wouldn't be impossible to get a dedicated sponsor to bring it back.
Yeah. I'm sure. For that one race, like
If I'm not mistaken, I'm thinking back. I can't remember the actual dates here, so I'm being generalistic here. But I think in the 80s, I'm talking here about the silver helmet, and I suspect the golden helmet was based on the same basis. But I think back in the 80s, I think it used to be a monthly nomination. So I guess the BSPA, as it was in those days, nominated a challenger. So there was only a challenge once per month. And if I remember correctly, it was a home and away affair, Nigel, right?
I think that was the problem with it, Derek. I think it then did become an expensive thing to run, because obviously you're paying another man to come. It was over 3 races. Over 3 races, if you remember. 3 races at Glasgow for Steve Lawson, and 3 races at Stoke for me. I don't know if the silver helmet was like. Yes, it was. The silver helmet was like that, because I can remember Tom Owen holding it once, coming to Scunthorpe with it. Yeah, and it did become quite an expensive thing then. But to just do it as a one-off race, the holder against the top scorer of the opposite team, I don't think it'd be massive expensive. Obviously, it'd be more expense, but you're giving the crowd something back, aren't you? You're giving them a little bit something more, and I think it would be a good idea to bring that back. I'm fully sure everybody would want it as well. I'm sure they would, because you had a place in the programme, you had to write the name of the challenger in, and again, it's just something for the crowd just to look forward to and see.
It was one of those things where, if you were ever going to skip a meeting or something, you would never skip the one that had the silver helmet match race attached to it. You always wanted to be there. Carol, I dare say, Carol, you're probably more au fait with the golden helmet equivalent of it, but is it something you remember, Carol, from back in the day as being a prestigious, exciting, dramatic addition to a league fixture?
Yeah, obviously, like when I first went to watch Speedway, it was obviously Peterborough was National League, so it was obviously the silver helmet. So we see obviously the likes of Ian Barney in it, and but it was good. It was like you said, you didn't miss a meeting when you knew the silver helmet was going to be there. Or, obviously if it was a Peterborough rider, you'd make sure you'd be at the next meeting because you knew there was going to be a challenger, and although the racing was good, you always look forward to that last heat, to who's going to challenge him. And it might not have been the top scorer, it might have been somebody who the last 2 or 3 races have been really good. Probably started off really poorly, but got to grips with the track. So it could have been somebody like that, and somebody who you didn't expect. 9 times out of 10 it would be top rider. But yeah, it was something that I used to look forward to, and it was something that, as a lad growing up around Speedway, you look forward to that sort of thing. And it was always it was a case of, you used to, if you got the Speedway star, it was like, who's got the silver helmet? Are they coming to Peterborough this week? Yeah. And you'd be looking for that. And we had many discussions regarding the gold and silver helmet at the AGMs, and yes, it's all down to cost of why it wasn't brought back, and yes, it was down to promoters turning around and voting against it because they didn't want to pay the extra race. Riders now obviously earn a lot more money, and they're looking at it going, maybe that's going to cost us £500 for that race, for that one-off race. Can we afford to do it? And they decided no, they couldn't afford to do it, even though there was a few that actually voted for it, wanted to see it come back. Obviously, the majority went against it, and I think that's a massive shame, as we've now got could be a potential a golden heat. If there's a draw. So you're still paying the money, you're paying more money if you get a golden heat than you are if you're having a gold or silver helmet match race. So, and you're not guaranteed of a golden heat every meeting. But if the silver or gold helmet's around, you're obviously guaranteed of that last race. And it was always good. And no guarantee that the home rider or whatever was going to win it, because it was toss for inside or outside gates. You didn't have gate 1 or gate 4 at the time. It was like inside or outside. So you sort of picked and choose where you wanted to go. But I'd like to see it come back. I think it'd be certainly something that would interest the crowds, and me as a supporter, I'm certainly interested in it. And if there was, obviously, like we've said, the BSPL are not going to fund it. They won't fund it, even though probably they should. It'll be down to the individual tracks, and another thing that's left to them, and it'll be down to them to get somebody to sponsor it. And we push so much on sponsors now. Do you really want to push even more onto them?
It's interesting, every pound's a prisoner. Sadly, that's a reality for modern day British Speedway. But we've talked quite fondly about the prospects of bringing that back. There's a whole generation of Speedway fans who will watch this discussion. They might not quite know what we're talking about, and gimmick or not, it did add a sense of drama. There was excitement. If you knew that your home number one now, or one of your home riders, was going to be challenging for the silver helmet because the holder was coming to your home club next week, it was super exciting to watch it. And the format could be tinkered with. Maybe there's some improvement to that format. Maybe we could find a dedicated sponsor who would that would go some way to cover all the associated costs. Who knows? But it would just add a little something at a time when British Speedway needs to find probably a few little somethings just to add to the mix, Nigel.
I think so, 100%, Derek, 100%. I'm sure it could get a sponsor somewhere. The problem might be the promoters might want to take so much of that sponsorship money. I don't know. I might be wrong by some of them there, but some of them might want to take some of that money and keep it for themselves. But I think they should. Definitely, it gives the crowd something else. Just the tension of that last race with the crowd, and especially if you've had a bit of hoo-ha as well during the meeting, and the two riders clash again, and it just adds up to the night's entertainment, doesn't it? And that's what Speedway's short of, entertainment. Yeah. That's where it's going wrong, I'm sure. Not enough entertainment. It's not just about the 15 races and go home, as I've said many times. You say it quite a lot, Nigel, but listen, we're with you on it. You've got a very valid point. And to your point, Carol, earlier, if the current day clubs are willing to commit to the potential to host a golden heat and the additional cost that would be associated to that, why couldn't they commit to hosting the occasional silver helmet or gold helmet match race, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, because how many we was unfortunate when the Golden Heat come in, but I think we had 3 in a row at Peterborough. It was like it was ridiculous at one point, but you're not going to get it every week. You don't see it very often now. It was you got it to start with, not so much now. You don't see so many. But yeah, if there's the golden helmet there, does it matter if there's an extra race? Even if you've got a golden heat, give the supporters. We keep saying that the supporters. Look, Speedway in the UK is a £10 sport. I've said this all along. It's a £10 sport. It's too expensive as it is. I appreciate why it's expensive, because obviously riders' costs go up, clubs' costs go up. So they have to charge more, and unfortunately, the punter is the one that has to foot the bill. It's on them. But we need, as involved in Speedway like we are, we need to give the supporters something back. I've always said we've always been quite open at Peterborough. With the way that we are with supporters. We always want the riders to be around the supporters. One of my things was, after the meeting, is we stop on the start and finish line, the riders go through the crowd, because it's them that pay the money to come and watch it. If you've got riders tucked away and you can't get at them, you're taking that personalisation away from the sport, and we want it to be quite personal. Obviously, what Peterborough is like, the pits are quite open, the riders can come right up to the fence with the supporters. They used to hang over the side. Brilliant for the supporters. Fantastic, because and that's why I think our support was so good, because we were so open with them. A lot of promoters don't like being open with their supporters, and certainly when said owner of Peterborough Speedway was involved at the latter end of its tenure, basically stopped us from saying what we wanted to say. And for me, that's not right. I want to be open with my supporters. I want to tell them what's going on with the club. And this is the same thing. We need to give them something back. Yeah. What better way?
Yeah. Stuart McDonald, assuming that you actually have, how long did it take you to forgive Neil Collins?
Well, the problem that I had the year previous to that, and he took my front wheel away at Bellevue, and I had a collapsed lung, broken ribs. So you can imagine the feud went on for quite a few years. So I actually met him about 12 years after that, and he stood in front of me and said, "Are we all good?" I mean, absolutely. It was a racing incident, but he had more desire to win the race than I did to get to that point. But just to echo what the guys say, the fans need entertainment. They need a spark, because Speedway's get too serious, too flat, and I think we need something to give it a bit of life, and definitely need something like a silver helmet race, golden, whatever you want to call it, or even like Carl says, the golden heat, whatever it is. You just a little bit of something for the end of the night.
So there we are, folks. With a little bit of reimagination, it might be one of the more achievable things that British Speedway could reintroduce and resurrect. Rebrand it, golden helmet, gauntlet, boot, steel shoes, shield, trophy, whatever it might be. Just something to add a little bit more entertainment and encourage people to get themselves trackside week on week. If you have any memories, any recollections about the golden helmet, the silver helmet, or any suggestions about how it might be resurrected in some future shape and form, please get in touch and share your views. Okay, another part of episode 12, and some more of your messages that have been submitted this week, which includes Jeff T from Grimsby. Contacted 360 Speedway. Totally agree with the British first approach to help our sport curb spending money it doesn't have on flying riders in from overseas. Need to cut our cloth. And that, of course, kind of resonates. It was a bit of a theme a couple of episodes back. Simon Lambert, Nigel Crabtree, amongst others, were beating that drum, and with a big winter coming up in terms of BSPL decisioning on the strategy and the format and the shape of British Speedway into 2026. perhaps, Jeff, to your point, perhaps this is time for a reality check, perhaps, and who knows, it might lead to a more British first policy, which has to have some beneficial effect, you would imagine, on the sort of cost and expenditure involved in British Speedway. But all ahead of us, all to be confirmed. But we note your sentiment. Thanks, Jeff. Jacqueline D from Lichfield contacts us. On the grounds of legacy and tradition alone, couldn't British Speedway access available grants to help clubs, even some, improve their financial standing? Which is a really interesting subject, Jacqueline, because there's all sorts of sports and entertainment and such like, agencies out there who do provide grants in some shape or form, even some government agencies, local authorities, I believe, even in these testing fiscal times that the country's in, may have the ability to access in grant form some funding to launch perhaps a new venue for some clubs, or to help to support that sort of thing. You're bringing back clubs, installing or enhancing, sort of recreational / sporting facilities within a particular community. I would like to think at a national level, I'd like to think the BSPL and at that level would have a fairly good grasp on the ability or otherwise of British Speedway to access some funds, but I dare say it might be more of a localised access issue. So it might be down to individual clubs to approach their respective local authorities and perhaps even regional or devolved agencies around exactly that type of thing. But I'm sure if it is an option, then the more switched on club owners amongst British Speedway will look to try and pursue that, Jacqueline. But a very good thought, thank you. Martin B from sunny Southampton, and it's been very sunny in Southampton in the last week or so. Don't get to too many live meetings these days, but via BSN, TNT, Speedway Star and social media, I still have a good sense of what's happening. Really enjoying 362. Thank you very much, Martin. Much appreciated for you to include 360 in amongst those bigger names that you've mentioned as well. It sounds like you're a little bit out on a limb geographically down in Southampton. I'm not sure how far or practical it is, Martin, for you to nip along the coast to Poole now and again, or even a bit further to Plymouth, or even a little bit further north, even up to Kent, and see some of the good stuff that's going on there. But don't lose your passion for the sport, Martin. Hang in there. Bob A via email has written in, has emailed obviously, and says, I wanted to say how much I enjoyed last week's discussion about riders not becoming world champ. Personally, I'd have liked Phil Crump or Gordon Kennett. Do you know what? That was we pushed that out on Facebook primarily last week, and the reaction to it across different Facebook pages has been really quite impressive. There's a heck of a lot of interaction, a lot of response from that, and it seems to be a subject that lots of Speedway fans have views on, and the whole range and spectrum of rider names that we were that were nominated as riders who could have and should have, and people would have liked to have lifted that world title was quite impressive. Phil Crump himself did get a few messages, so Bob, you're in good company nominating Phil, and thanks for taking time to email. And finally, this week for episode 12, Lorraine V from Berkshire writes, school summer holidays are fast approaching, as they are in England. They've just kicked in Scotland. How many clubs will hand out tickets for the kids to have a free or money off night out with the family? A no-brainer for Lorraine. And you know what, Lorraine, it's not a bad idea. I'm not sure how many clubs do that or would do that. It might be a lost leader. There might not be too much risk to it, because you could argue that those kids, or the majority of those families, probably wouldn't consider normally coming along to Speedway anyway. And if you bring them along, if you attract them along with a free ticket or money off, then I'm sure there would be some in-stadium spend on food and drink, maybe the odd programme, maybe some merchandise. And who knows, you would obviously look for a percentage of those to come back for a second look and pay at the turnstile. So it's a very good suggestion, Lorraine. It's maybe not rocket science to suggest it. And to your point, how many clubs will pursue that policy? If you happen to know that your local Speedway club has signed up to do something very similar this summer holidays, please let us know. I'd be delighted to hear some positive activity. So there we are. That's all of your messages for another week. Please get your name on screen next week, or better still, use that dedicated WhatsApp number 0333 772 4046. Send a text form message or one of those much sought after voice notes.